Watch this video before you consider buying a house or building a house in Nigeria as a real estate investment to be used as a rental property. If you live in the diaspora, you really want to watch this video to the end, or if you have plans of relocating out of Nigeria, then stop and make sure you watch this video. My name is Bridget and welcome to Bridge Tribe. And on this channel, we talk about intentional parenting, finances, building generational wealth, health and fitness, and everything about wealth transfer to your children. Now let's get into this video. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share this video, and turn on your notification bell. Now, in 2024, I hear people talk a lot about, and there's been a lot of debate on whether people in the diaspora should buy rental property back in Nigeria, or, is it a good investment or a bad investment? Now, before we delve into this topic, we want to look at your purposes, or what is your goal when you think about real estate and investment? What is your goal? You're going to be thinking of, do I want this as a quick long-term passive income strategy, or am I looking for a long-term income strategy, or am I looking at something I just want to buy for sentimental purposes? So those are the three things that we're going to look at before we start. Now, if you're buying property because you want passive income, fast income streams. A lot of people ask me every time, oh, I want a passive income business, but I don't have a lot of capital. Real estate is not what you should be talking about if you don't have capital. You need to have at least something, a good amount of money if you want to start real estate. And you also have to be patient enough to wait, So it's going to take a process. With real estate, it should be taking you, or with buying a property in general, it should be taking you about 6 to 7 months. If you're building, it's going to take a longer time. You're talking about 1 to 3-4 years. Okay. And then if you're thinking of buying and holding, then you're thinking of, just buying a property or buying a piece of land and keeping it long term so that you can sell it, right? And then the third one is you're buying a home because you want ties back at home. The Igbo people, we want to go home. We want to have a house that we want to go back to. Those are the three reasons why people would want to invest in real estate back in Nigeria. So we're going to break down all of this, so we'll watch to the end as we analyze and break down all of this. Now, number one, the first thing you want to look at when buying real estate in Nigeria is, what is your budget for the project, right? If you want to make sure that you have enough money to sink into the project, because if you're buying the property, then you're going to face a lot of approval processes, verification processes, all of that. And you're going to need money to clear all that, right? Now, the next thing you want to look at is, there are a lot of government strategies that change, policies that change, new government, new policies. Now, there's a lot of instability when it comes to government policies in Nigeria, that if a governor's tenure ends, there's always a tendency that an area that you consider was not a government property before becomes a government property. And we've seen that happen, in recent times, where in Lagos, you see that houses are being demolished, even though people have the documentation for these houses. For example, if you look into the story of Landmark, right? Landmark was a very big, like it was a very beautiful place, but this year Landmark was demolished. And what happens to all of the investment, all of the money and time and effort? Sometimes we're not even looking about, physical cash that has gone into the project. You're looking at, the time, the energy, the effort, the mental stress that has gone into this project, and then it just gets demolished. So many people have gone through, when government policies change, or let's say sometimes it could be an issue of these people not registering the buildings or the residential homes, all of that, and then the government says all of a sudden after 10 years, 15 years, they've been warning you, they come and they demolish the house. I know that when issues of demolitions come into play, a lot of times what people say is that, oh, were you not informed? Okay, they were informed, but some people still go and do what they want to do. But just considering that the emotional stress that goes into you having built a house, maybe a mistake that you made, maybe an agent, deceived you that all the documentation was available, especially if you live in the diaspora. How can you trust the person who you are talking to over the phone to secure this property for you? And they've told you, oh, everything is good, all the documentation is good. Remember that you are not on ground. Even with people that you trust, people that you believe are family members, sometimes they're not even telling you the truth. And then you end up buying this property and developing or building on this property. 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, they say that this property is marked for demolition and all your effort is gone. So a lot of times, these are some of the heartbreak, the inconsistencies that comes with building a house back in Nigeria, or buying a property back in Nigeria, or buying property or investment for rent. Now, the third thing, it's going to be the fact that with the current exchange rates, right? You go back and you buy a property and you're saying, oh, or you buy a property, or you're building a property and you're saying that this property is for rent, right? Now, how much, when you consider, now this, remember that I said for those in the diaspora. Now, when you think about the efforts that you have put in and how much you have put in into building this house, right? You're talking of not less than, let's say, 1 to 3 years to build this house. And then how much is the rent? At the end of the day, they're paying you, if it's not somewhere like Lagos, right? Most people will say just buy property in Lagos. But if not somewhere like Lagos, let's say in Abuja, right? Let's say rent is 1.5 million naira, right? But you convert that naira to dollar, and with everything that's happening, naira has really been devalued right now. So how much can you actually, change that money for dollar in order to actually break even, right? Now that we have broken down, or we have stated 3 reasons why people would like to go into real estate, now let's talk about real estate as an investment and the reasons why it might not be a good investment for you if you live in the diaspora, right? So the first thing, the first number one reason why it might not be a good fit for you if you live in the diaspora, it might be a bad decision for you, is, let's look at budgeting. Real estate, buying or building a house back in Nigeria, it's gonna take a lot of money. Like, not really a lot if you live in America and with the exchange rate right now, but we know how tough it is here living in America and you paying bills. So you're going to make a lot of sacrifices because you want to build a house back in Nigeria for rental purposes, right? So you're going to probably be working double shifts, depriving yourself a lot of comfort here in order to take that money and send it to Nigeria to build rental property. Now, when you look at your budget, do you have the budget for the the project, because building a house is going to take time and it's going to take effort. When people talk to me and they say, oh, I want to go into real estate or I want to buy a house, the general advice I give is just bear in mind that real estate investment is a long-term project. So if you're looking for, if the purpose why you're trying to build is that, oh, I want, something that's going to generate me money fast. No, this is not the kind of project that is going to give you money fast, right? This is not a type of income stream. You have to be patient. So you're looking at 1 to 3 years. You're looking at, if it's a rental property that you're building from scratch. But if something you're buying, you probably look at 6 months to 1 year for that purpose. Now, the next reason why this might not be a good fit for you is that when you're building a house in Nigeria, you're going to be dealing with a lot of settle this, settle that, a lot of documentation, unnecessary expenses. I remember us building a house back in Nigeria. Even though we were there, we had to settle community, settle this, settle that, settle this. And because you're not physically present, guess what? People are going to rip you off. Maybe they need 100,000. They're going to tell you it's 500,000. So again, it also comes with, trust. Who do you really trust? The people who are handling this project for you? Even if you trust them, like, are they people that will really, do what they have told you that they're gonna do? So when it comes to you building from scratch, are they buying the materials that you want? So it can really be psychologically and mentally stressful when you consider, oh, I'm building a house back in Nigeria. It's going to take its toll on you physically, mentally. You're going to be screaming. Probably you told them to buy this material. They're not buying what they're buying substandard material. All of that is going to be a whole mess. So is it worth the stress at the end of the day? Now, how I would actually negate that area is to just say, okay, just buy an already built home. Just buy something that's already built. Maybe that will help you cut costs when it comes to you building from scratch or you just buying. Now, the third reason why buying a property back in Nigeria might not be a good decision, buying a property for rent in Nigeria might not be a good decision. It's because there are so many government policies that come up every day. Now, last year or this year, Landmark was completely demolished. Now, if you know Landmark was a beautiful tourist. It would, like, tourist site. It was so beautiful, but guess what? It was demolished. So government policies are going to, when government changes, these people are going to come up with new policies. So sometimes, even though you have the right paperwork, the right documentation, people will say, make sure you get, all the documents correctly. But what if, government discovers something happens, like they change the policy. Now you're going through all of the demolition trauma. People would say, oh, the government will reimburse you. But sometimes it's not even about the reimbursement. Most times it's the fact that all the time, the effort, the energy, the stress that you have gone through, building that property, everything that you have gone through, everything just goes down. So that is also one of the reasons why, getting a property for rent in Nigeria or even investing in real estate back in Nigeria might not be a good investment plan for you. Policies change every day. You see people who are crying because their houses were demolished 10 years later, 15 years later, 20 years later. And when we talk about demolition, people would say, oh, they probably knew that they were building in a wrong that's where you are building, it's not legit. But what if now we're talking about people in the diaspora? You sent somebody money, you told them to buy a property for you, they told you everything was legit. Because you're not on ground, you could not inspect, you believed everything. Then all of a sudden, after building after building and investing money into it, the government comes up and say, oh, this property is illegal. Then what happens? All your years of hard work. So that is also one of the reasons. Now, the fourth reason is that now people say we're building back in Nigeria because we want to retire to Nigeria. Now, I'm going to share a personal experience based on this point. My dad was heavy on buying land back in Nigeria. In fact, in my village, my daddy had so many empty land that he would use for farm. We had a plantation. He also had a big house in the village, even though he had another house in kind of like the suburbs of the village of the town. Now, in my 38 years of being on this set, I would tell you categorically that the only time I went to the house in the village, or any of my siblings, I'm not even sure that any of my siblings have gone to that house in the past 10 years. I'm not sure they've gone. So that property is just there. Nobody is going there. Again, a wasted investment. So when it comes to the lands that are there, how many of our children are actually going to leave America and go back to Nigeria? Even for elderly people amongst us, right, that are retiring, how many of them are actually saying, oh, I have retired, I now want to go back and relocate to Nigeria? A lot of them, they say it, but a lot of people do not relocate. When you check the statistics, most older Nigerians, Africans are still in America, even though they have retired. They're unable to cope back in Nigeria, so they're not going back. So the houses that you built, what happens to them? Then one uncle, one auntie is fighting over land, doesn't make sense. So at the end of the day, if that is your purpose for building a house back in Nigeria, are you guaranteed that your children are going to go back to those properties? Are you guaranteeing that? So we want to talk about the value, right? The value. If you buy a house or you build a house for 200 million back in, let's say, 5 years ago, and today the investment or the house has appreciated to, you bought it 20 million, today the house has appreciated to 40 million. Now, when you sell that house or you evaluate that house and you convert it to dollar, you see that you are still making a loss on that property, right? So at the end of the day, what is your purpose of investing back home? Is it that you don't care about if you're making profit or you're not making profit? Those are some of the things that you want to really consider when it comes to the economic value of your investments when compared to the valuation of Naira right now. That are you really getting value, or are you getting your what when it comes to what returns are you getting back for this investment? If I were to invest in Nigeria in real estate, the things I would do is, number one, I'll probably get a multi-duplex, right? And I would rent 3 or 4 of those properties or 5 of those properties and keep one empty. That one would be maintained, or the money from all of those ones I will use to maintain that single one. And as long as you're sure that you're not expecting to take the money from Nigeria and bring it to America, whatever it is that is in Nigeria should stay in Nigeria. Let's say you have bills to cover in Nigeria, use that to cover the bills in Nigeria. But if you're thinking about, oh, I'm doing all of this investment because I want to make so much money, I don't think that is going to happen. Another thing you can do is, maybe you have a property and you use it as an Airbnb. I think that because of, if you have it in an area where you're able to get enough clients, the turnover is, and you have high traffic to that area, you're able to rent multiple times a month or multiple times a year. It's better than waiting for to receive rent, 1 year rent of 1.5 million in a year. You can make so much more if you rent out that house in an Airbnb. So when you consider houses that you can rent in Airbnb, you're not building a mansion for an Airbnb. So those are the things that I would consider, and you really need to think about it when you consider that, am I going back home to buy or to invest in real estate? So I hope this video was useful. I hope you were able to draw some points, and I want you to subscribe, share this video, and like this video, and drop your comment. Do you think that buying real estate for rentals is a profitable venture back now in 2024? Thank you. Bye.